For all the folks on the call, Sandeep was demoing a few things last week in our all hands meeting, and I told him he should change his title from senior engineer to senior magician because there's some really cool stuff that he's been showing us. And I know that everybody's really excited about this concept of kind of a multi-repository workflow inside of DDN Advanced. So you want to give us a little introduction, and then you can jump into the demo itself?
Sure. So FYI, the magic stuff is not ready for public eyes yet. This will amaze people in some time later. But yeah, so Akshay in the previous community call has talked about what federation is, how is it different from other people who are doing federation in the market. So I'll not touch upon that. I'll just give a basic overview of federation. Let me share. The key differentiator between Hasura Federation and others is we have the concept of subgraphs, which are like individual modules, which when brought together gives you the API. So this is unlike the sort of like GraphQL gateway or adapter, gateway or like a relay, which splits across like subgraphs in their concept. So this is how DDN does it, where you have individual modules and you can compose them to form your subgraph. What are the advantages we gain with this model? We have built-time validations. Like if it builds, it works. If your supergraph build works, if it builds properly, it will serve the API properly. You have that confidence. And one of the biggest advantages of the subgraph model is that you can release your subgraphs independently without breaking or obstructing any other scene subgraph. Like you have independent SDLC with each subgraph. So subgraph is a team boundary. And with that eventually leads to better composition. So you can compose multiple subgraphs and that results in a new supergraph for you. Each subgraph can have multiple versions and each one is an immutable build. So you can compose to form a supergraph build. And the fact that GraphQL engine, which serves the DDN engine, which serves the API, has the entire metadata with it, that leads to better query planning and that results in better performance. So having said that, currently, if you had created a project with DDN CLIV 1.0.0, you would have done DDN supergraph build create, and you would have passed a supergraph.yaml, where it would have built multiple subgraphs together. The new concept that's coming in with federation is you can independently build each subgraph, and this becomes even more powerful, where each subgraph is present in different repositories. They don't even have to be co-located in the same repository. You can just build a subgraph, apply it, or use it to compose a supergraph build. So now what supergraph build becomes is just a composition of multiple subgraph builds. I can say, hey, my subgraph A, I take A7, B, I take B3. So as I said, each subgraph is by a module itself and it has its own SDLC. So for a demo, I'll be demonstrating like a brownfield application, which basically it's our docsdb, where I have two models in my subgraph one. I have products and orders. There's a relationship between them. And I already have an API for this with this one single subgraph. It is up and I already have the API for this. So this is a pre-existing API. Now, as a supergraph admin, as a multi-team manager, I want to onboard one more team called team 2, which with a subgraph called SG2. Basically, they will manage my users model, and I want to have a combined API for this. So, and this is going to be in a multi-repo scenario. So as a supergraph admin, I'll just create a new subgraph for them called DDN subgraph. I already have a project, and I'm creating this new subgraph called SG2 in this project, Enormous Bullfrog. So this way, I can onboard a new team in this subgraph. So let me create a new repository for team 2. And so the getting started for a federated subgraph is basically the same as a supergraph. The steps are literally the same. So let me run them in one single go so that I initialize a supergraph. You still need to initialize a supergraph so that you can do a local dev with that subgraph. Subgraph build that never gives you an API. You need to create a supergraph build out of the subgraph build to have an API. So I have my local supergraph initialized. Let me set the context. I'm setting the project and the supergraph file to context. I'll initialize a new subgraph called SG2. The name has to be the same as what the supergraph admin created it. Let me set the subgraph to the context. Just to note, this is all happening in a separate repository. Team 2, team 1 was the source for the API that we saw in the screen. Let me initialize the Postgres connector. It automatically connects to the docsdb. By the way, these steps are as is from our getting started docs, so they are no different. I introspect my Postgres database to get the database schema. I add a connector link for my database. Now let me start everything locally. I'm doing local dev with my subgraph. I have all my services running. Let me update my connector link with the schema. So this is my subgraph 2. I have my metadata, and my connector link is updated with the entity schema for the database. Now, I want to add a user's model. I'll add that. I have my user's model here. Now, just like I would do a supergraph build local for a non-fitted scenario, I need to do the same thing for me to see that API locally. So I have my local build. I go to my local console, and I can see that the user's model has been tracked for subgraph SG2. So I can query the user's IDs and email. So I have my new repository with my new subgraph building locally. Now let us push this subgraph to cloud. DDN subgraph build create. I'm creating a subgraph build for SG2. This is creating. Before we can push the subgraph to cloud, I need to build my connector. So let me build and deploy the Postgres connector to DDN. And this will also update the URL in target env file. So if you can see, all the steps resemble closely with the supergraph getting started. It's no different.
And Sandeep, while this is building in the background, right? One of the things that we're seeing in future iterations of the CLI workflow is going to be, as you said, some simplified commands as well, correct?
Yes, it's going to be like 5 commands. Like right now, we have the building blocks. Now we are going to give you the wrappers with which it is going to be very easy to work with GDN. We've heard the feedback that it's too difficult. We acknowledge that.
Totally.
So now I've built my connectors. Now let me build my subgraph. Okay. Now I have built my subgraph with this version. Now, as I said, subgraph doesn't give you an API. You need to apply the subgraph build in that project. We have seen that in the project right now, we have only these 2 models. Let me apply a subgraph build in this project. Now, what's going to happen is this new subgraph is going to get merged with this already existing subgraph. So a new build has been created. as you can see, the users model we developed independently in our local is now merged with my supergraph. So let me try querying all of them.
A little redundant query there at the end, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of emoji reactions coming through of people excited about this.
Great. If you're excited about this, the next one will probably excite you more. Now we have a great API. It's all good. Now, the true power of this API is unlocked when you can join stuff across subgraphs. Like now I want to get all my users and their orders and what products they have ordered. Which is basically joining across subgraphs. Now, to do that, I basically create a relationship in my subgraph 2 from users. I join it to orders, which is present in subgraph 1. So I'm joining based on these two fields. This is just like any other relationship you would create inside subgraph. It's just that now the target is present in a different subgraph. So let's do this. DDN subgraph, build, create. And let's apply this. Now the build is applied. Now let's make a new query. Now I'm going to get all the users and I want to get all their orders and each of the products that they've ordered.
Sandeep, maybe check your metadata real quick. Did you save that file before creating the build in VS Code? Yeah.
Good eyes. Very good eyes.
Well, that's like Shaya's eyes. There we go.
Now look at the information that we can get. I can get my users, their orders, and what the product that they've ordered. Now imagine you can query, you can filter with these cross subgraph relationships. You can make aggregate queries with this. You can even power your permission models with these kind of relationships. When you have such a flexible API backed by a powerful authorization system, that unlocks a lot of things for you. So just to highlight the key points, the subgraph model lets you iterate and deploy very quickly. And this supports a multi-repo scenario, which is a common case with large enterprises anyway. So what's coming next? As I said, a magical workflow to make getting started easy is on the way. And we have schema registry and schema diff, which are required features for CI/CD. I need to check whether my schema is backward compatible, and then I can do a safe release. And RBAC. When I say RBAC, it's basically I'll have roles for supergraph and subgraph. Each subgraph can have users and admin. Users can create bills, admins can apply bills, and this applies for both in supergraph and in subgraph contexts. So these are all in play, like these are all being developed actively. And even today, you can see in the console, you can look at the subgraph builds that you've created, the subgraph builds that you created, and all the subgraph builds that are backing those supergraph builds.
Got it. As a hater of mono repos, this makes me really excited for being able to, I would think, move somewhat independently, right, really quickly, but still have guardrails in place so that I don't mess up anything that's in prod. So that makes me happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's still like if it builds, it works. That philosophy still stands.
Awesome.